Okay, so it's looking like David Benavidez is going to be facing Anthony Yarde in a Riyadh season card in November. Of course, David Benavidez now being the WBC World Light Heavyweight Champion, and Anthony Yarde being a multiple-time world title challenger at this point in his career. David Benavidez, of course, being the undefeated former super middleweight champion as well, now moved up to light heavyweight. Fought David Morrell, beat him in his last outing in a performance that showed, in my opinion, showed a lot of heart from David Benavidez, because David Morrell came into that fight to win. He was a live one, he was a live body in that fight, definitely came to win, and was a close fight. And David Morrell, in my opinion, really proved himself and really David Morrell put himself on my radar with that performance, right? Where you look at David Morrell, well, he's not got a ton of pro experience. I think he was only 10-1 or 11. He's like a 10-0 or 11-0 going into that fight, right? And somewhat a bit of an accomplished amateur, I believe, David Morrell. But he goes into that fight with not a ton of experience as a pro, and I'm thinking, okay, David Benavidez is probably just going to run through this guy, and he doesn't, right? And we can talk about David Benavidez's performance in that fight, but important to give David Morrell his flowers as well, because he really showed up for that fight. That being said, David Benavidez did win that fight. It was close, it was competitive, but he did win that fight, and that was for an interim title. Since then, that title's he's now been upgraded to the world champion, and it looks like his first title defense is going to be against Anthony Yarde, where Anthony Yarde hasn't necessarily done a ton to earn this title defense, this title opportunity, in my opinion. Obviously, his last win being over Lyndon Arthur wasn't an amazing performance. Lyndon Arthur's a decent boxer, but if Anthony Yarde's as good as, in my opinion, if Anthony Yarde's as good as how I think he is, then he should be running through a guy like Lyndon Arthur, if I'm being honest. And you look at Anthony Yarde's career, you see those 3 losses, you see Lyndon Arthur, which wasn't a good performance from Anthony Yarde, and I think he'll even admit that himself. But he's now avenged that with 2 wins over Lyndon Arthur, right? And like I say, even that third performance wasn't a great performance, but he won the fight, right? And then, of course, he's got 2 other losses against Kovalev and Beterbiev. Of course, he fought Kovalev in Russia. That was one of Kovalev's last great performances. That being said, wasn't a bad performance from Anthony Yarde, in my opinion. Anthony Yarde gave Kovalev problems, man. Was winning a lot of rounds early on. If he didn't get exhausted, who knows? Right, who knows? But that's the thing in boxing. You're always going to be playing that what-if game, or what if this happened, what if that happened? I know, I get it, right? But it was a good performance, in my opinion, from Anthony Yarde. And then Beterbiev just got to him, and it looked like he was outclassing him, outworking him, outlanding him, bullied him overall, which it's rare to see a guy like Anthony Yarde get bullied at light heavyweight. It goes to show how much of a generational talent Beterbiev was, or is even. I don't want to say was, because he's only lost 1 fight, and it was to Bivol. And again, not a bad performance, and no shame losing to Bivol for Beterbiev, right? But for Beterbiev, he pretty much bullied Anthony Yarde and then won that fight, right? So Anthony Yarde, you're looking at him, has he beat anyone world class? In my opinion, he's not got any world class wins on his resume, right? You could say similar for David Benavidez. David Benavidez got no world class wins at light heavyweight. He's got a couple at super middleweight, but not a ton. He's not a Canelo. He's not got Canelo's resume. He's not got Beterbiev's resume. He's not got Bivol's resume. He's not got Kovalev's resume, right? So this is an interesting fight. I think it's probably going to be a war, because that's how both of these guys fight. Especially when David Benavidez is going to force a war out of Anthony Yarde. Because if Anthony Yarde doesn't need to go to war, believe me, he's not going to. Right? Anthony Yarde will pick you off from the outside, stay at range, land his shots, batter you. If he stops you, he might stop you. If not, he'll cruise to it'll look competitive, but he'll cruise to a 12-round decision. Whereas David Benavidez, he's walking you down, he's putting it on you, he's throwing punches in bunches, and now he's not as monstrous as a puncher as he was at super middleweight. We saw that in the David Morrell fight. We all saw that in the David Morrell fight, but people aren't walking through his punches still. Now, you have to ask yourself, Anthony Yarde's been stopped before by the likes of Kovalev and Benavidez. no, Kovalev and Beterbiev, sorry. And you think, is Benavidez as big of a puncher as those two guys? At light heavyweight, I'm inclined to say no. At super middleweight, obviously, this is different, but Anthony Yarde's never making super middleweight. You know? You look at the power of those two punchers in terms of Beterbiev and Kovalev, and I'm like, no, David Benavidez at light heavyweight is not that kind of puncher. He's not. That being said, this would be another fight light heavyweight, another chance for David Benavidez to grow into his body at 175 as well. Again, he's not had a ton of fights on 175 before. He's still, in my opinion, probably growing into the weight class. And we may see, you know, going forward, David Benavidez having some serious thud on those punches once again. Right? Because I know that's what he was known for at super middleweight. He was known for being a bully, walking guys down, getting late stoppages, battering guys. He was known for that at super middleweight. He's not shown that too much at light heavyweight yet, but it's still early. Like I'm saying, you know, he's not even 5 fights into light heavyweight. But we'll see. We'll see. It's a very interesting fight for me. Again, two guys that I'm huge fans of. I'm huge fans of both guys. A bit of a shock to see this fight get made, if I'm being honest. I'm sure no doubt I'll make a video about this nearer the time too. Another video about the fight nearer the time as well. Probably make a video about why each guy wins this fight. But off rip, my immediate prediction is a Benavidez decision win. I struggle to see Benavidez finishing Anthony Yarde at this point of Benavidez's career at light heavyweight. Like I said, I think he's still growing into his body. And Anthony Yarde's only been stopped by the best of the best at light heavyweight. Do I think David Benavidez is there? I don't think he's there yet. But he could get there. Because he got there at super middleweight. He could get there again at light heavyweight. Hopefully he does. Like I said, he's one of my favourite fighters to watch. But off rip, immediate reaction is a David Benavidez unanimous decision win, in my opinion. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you think Anthony Yarde could pull this off? I hope he could. I'd love to see Anthony Yarde get a world championship, but it's hard. Light heavyweights, there's a lot of talent at light heavyweight. But yeah, another video in the bag, another Seth Solo side quest in the bag for me, and I'm out. Peace.